Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. I'm joined by Stacie, who is the founder and CEO of Pace Forward, co-host of Global Professional Women's Network, connecting women's entrepreneurs to foster collaboration, and a startup mentor, helping early stage founders develop strong and scalable ventures. Hello, Stacie. How are you today?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for inviting me here.
It's a pleasure to have you on today's episode. And Stacie, with the introduction, I mentioned a lot about you. And one of the things that I mentioned was Pace Forward. Would you mind explaining to the audience what Pace Forward is, what inspired you to start it, and what goals you envisioned for it when you first began?
Yeah, of course. Pace Forward was started about 4 years ago. It was originally started in Myanmar. So what we do as Pace Forward is mainly providing language education to people in who are like starting the workplace or who are just already in the workplace but looking to improve and then expand their career opportunity. So the reason why we started was during that time back in Myanmar, there was a lot of development happening, and then there's a lot of like foreign job opportunities coming in. But most of the people struggle with the language, and then they were not able to land the job because they were not able to communicate in English. So that's where the idea started. But then we just looked at a few existing services that they can go to, but the problem most of the people were facing was the schedule conflict and then commuting to the classes. So at that time, online classes were not that popular, so we just asked like, hey, why don't we try online? So it was like right before COVID, so everything was more like physical classes and stuff. So we just kind of like took risk and went on to the online platform and then started offering like one-to-one classes. And then a few months after we launched, actually, COVID hits, and everyone started to get online at that time, but we were already there. So that kind of like helped expand us more quickly. And then we were able to support over 30,000 students as of now.
Wow, Stacie, that's amazing. And it's great that you're able to support
Yeah.
so many people. I think this is an amazing initiative that I hope my audience tunes into and looks into a lot more. And, when you start something like this, looking back on the early stages of your journey, could you share some of the highs and lows you faced and how you were able to overcome them?
Yeah, definitely. It goes a little bit back to my background because I was originally not from a business background. So I just kind of stumbled into the entrepreneurship role. So in the beginning, I had a co-founder, and then he was mainly in charge of just overseeing the business, and I was more into the operation. But then 2 years in, I had to step up and take over the whole operation and the strategic level as well. That's where I faced a lot of challenges because it was my first time, like no experience, no background in business, just kind of like navigating through everything on my own, and then started seeing like all the like what do I do with the financial statement? What do I do? Like even the small things like that, those were a bit more of a challenge. And then like leads to like bigger things as well, like planning for long term and then connecting it back to the vision. So those I had to take a lot of time to learn.
And you mentioned that your background is not in business. What is your background in actually?
I was doing research, so I was in studying biotechnology back in college. So yeah, that was my previous goal, career goal to become a researcher.
I'm glad that you mentioned this because it leads me to the following question. And knowing that your background is in science, like biotechnology, you seem to make a significant transition from, biotechnology as a background to moving to business. What motivated this change? And when you're going through that experience of doing something that's entirely new, What was going through your mind at that time? Did you have any doubt? Did you have to overcome any sort of barriers that you have, like mentally?
Um, yeah, I guess it wasn't like a movie, like I wasn't going like intentionally from one career path to another. It was more like I was doing my bachelor's and then I took a gap year, so I went back home and then that's where I started working on the project. So I think it was more progressive gradually, so I was able to kind of like get a hang of it. But I would share more about like the reason I decided to let go of the research dream and then stay with the entrepreneurship. It's mainly because of the people. So while I was operating the business for like about a year, I reconsidered maybe going back to research and then doing my PhD. But the reason I didn't was because with my business, I was able to employ a lot of youth who were in university or who like graduated recently. So I was able to create some opportunities for them. And then during COVID, one of the problem was most of the adults were laid off, which means like the employees that we have are actually the younger people, and they're the one responsible to financially support the whole family. So I heard a lot of those stories, and then that's where I was like, okay, if I go back to research, I would just be kind of um focusing on myself. But if I stayed and grow this business, I will be able to help a lot more people and a lot more families. So that's where I decided, okay, I'll just let go of my previous dream and then let me just stick to this entrepreneurship.
Was this something you sort of like planned? As you said, you took a gap year after completing your degree, and I'm pretty sure in that span of a year, you did a lot of learning and there was a lot of growth that happened. Can you expand on how that year was like for you and how you were able to grow as a person?
Yeah, it was definitely transformational because before that, I didn't really see myself as a business person at all. So I was just like, okay, I'm analytical, I'm good like working in a lab. That was it. But I didn't really realize that I actually have business skills. But during gap year, it was more like, okay, I am bored, I have nothing to do. So I started working on this as a project. And yeah, a lot of changes happened because previously with the field I was in, I was okay being an introvert, not talking to people, and then just staying in my own little bubble. But while doing business, I have to be talking to people and then like navigating different people in with different ways. So a lot of people management were involved, and then a lot of networking were involved, which I'm not very familiar with or like I'm not really used to. So those things I've faced a lot of challenges, but I have learned a lot from those experiences as well. So yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge for me.
It was great to hear that, you mentioned about your experience that 1 year, how it was transformational. You use it to grow as a person. And is this something that you kind of thought that you were going to do coming out of university, or was it something that kind of happened spontaneously, like all this things that, came about and the fact that we're having this interview today?
Mm. Yeah, at that time it was more spontaneous. Yeah, because with my previous plan, I would have just stick to like going back to research. But then because during COVID, I was not able to just go back to school. So I was kind of like stuck working on my project a few more years. And then I just like, okay, I cannot let go at this point. I have to just continue this. And yeah, the people around me, I every time I look at them, I'm like, I need to be doing this for them. So that made me stayed, and then that kept me motivated.
Awesome. That's amazing. I think you mentioned like the circle and the group of people around you. And I think that's also transformational, not only, the year that you had where you were able to, bring this forward, but also the fact that you have people around you that push you and motivate you. I think
Yeah,
that's really important, right?
yeah, definitely. Because yeah, we're serving the customers, the looking back at the impact, there was a lot to look at. We actually supported a lot of people with the job placements. But those are, I would say, like you don't really get to see them every day. So the impact you can see from the numbers, but the connection with other people is like coming from the team. So you were communicating with them every day, you were helping them. And then for my team, I saw them grow with me together for the past 4 years, and then I've seen how far they have come. And then that's something that is really fulfilling for me to like help them grow and also grow the company at the same time.
That's amazing. It's almost like they're kind of your family because you saw them grow, they've seen you grow as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've been through a lot of ups and downs together.
And starting this startup and Pace Forward, which we've talked a lot about so far on the podcast, and you've received recognition actually. You were recently featured in an article highlighting startups that changes lives. And what does it mean to you as someone who kind of went through this transformational journey and change to be featured and have that recognition? And what does this mean and what does the future hold for Pace Forward?
Mm. Yeah, it was truly an honor to be featured, definitely. But I think as we are like the ones inside the story, I would say we don't really see it. We're like doing the day-to-day task and not really seeing the impact. And then whenever like someone from outside come in and like craft the story in that way, actually the author of that piece was a really good friend of mine. And then he shared the story to me. And then I read it, I'm like, why did I not see it like that before? You know, that's exactly what I'm doing, but I was not, because I was so involved in the details, I was not able to see it in the way that he wrote it. And I was like truly, yeah, truly grateful for that as well.
Going back to the introduction, we talked only a bit about you, but only a small part about you, Stacie, because Pace Forward is not the only thing that is going on in your life. You are doing other things as well, which is remarkable. You are the co-host of the Global Professional Women's Network, which I'll say it again. And what does this experience, what has this experience been like for you? And what steps did you have to take to be a co-host?
Yeah, that's another thing, I guess. Maybe it's a pattern for entrepreneur. You have interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs, so you might have seen the pattern. I think we just kind of do it and then just like, and if it happens, we just continue working on it. So it was one of those things actually, because I moved to Bangkok about 8 months ago. So when I first moved, I wasn't able to find many friends. So I was like, okay, new city. I'm like new here. I need to go out, meet people, and connect. And whenever I go to networking events here, one thing I notice is like it's very male dominated. And then it's difficult to connect with more female founders. Like I would be in a room with like 80 to 100 attendees in a networking event, and then I could only find two or three women in it. So that's where it started, and then that's one of the reason I met my the other co-host Alice. So we met and we were talking and sharing about the experience, and we kind of have the similar experience. So that's where we're like, okay, let's just continue doing that because she was already hosting it. So I was like, okay, I will help you. Let's make it bigger and then let's see how it goes. And then we just started working on that together. And within a few months, we got a lot of women coming in with the similar stories. And then, so we just enjoy chit-chatting and then networking and helping each other. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I really like how when you said you moved to Bangkok, you have this new approach of trying to put yourself out there and trying to find people. And I think that that's the best part about the cities, that there's always someone there for you. And I'm pretty sure someone who's listening to this podcast would love to, speak to you and go to one of your events, which leads me
Yeah.
to the next question, which is for anyone who's interested in Pace Forward's events, how can they connect with you and get involved and meet you? And what can they expect from these events?
Okay, I guess there's a lot of events I do. So for Pace Forward, we do more of the learner network because we're in the learning in industry. So here in Thailand, we expanded our branch about 6 months ago. So we added Thai language classes here as well. So if you are interested for language exchange and then also meeting other people, that's where we host the event. You could probably find us on Meetup or just like connect to me directly on LinkedIn and just send me a message as well. So Pace Forward, we do that. And then the Global Professional Women Network, we do brunch on Sunday, also on Meetup. But yeah, for any of the events, just like connect with me on LinkedIn and then yeah, just text me.
Awesome. I'll definitely put your LinkedIn in the description so
Yeah,
anyone
that would be
watching this can, keep up with you and find you and go to one of these events because I think the industry is very broad. It's amazing what you're doing, the initiative. And would you say a lot of it comes from your passion in terms of like trying to develop your skills and trying to grow as a person in this field of business or having your own company pays forward?
yeah, for sure. Like for I think for any type of entrepreneurs, like whichever field they are in, for business owners and entrepreneur, it's the most important thing is being self-motivated, right? Because we don't have a boss telling us what to do, or we don't have like a KPI set by someone else. So we kind of have to be self-motivated and setting the goals on our own and be like very visionary and goal-oriented. So definitely like you need a lot of passion to just wake up every day and then have energy to do the same thing and then grow and then yeah, deal with all the stress. So my passion mainly was in this educating people and then empowering. So educating as in like with my business, we do a lot of educating other people, but also for me personally, whenever I meet other founders or like aspiring founders, I would just help them navigate through their challenges in their own business as well. So for me, education is not just like, okay, in a classroom teaching, it could be just anywhere getting support from someone else.
I really like how you mentioned that and your mindset towards education. I think I totally agree. It's not something that happens in the classroom. It's something that can happen outside of the classroom as well. And the fact that you are paying it forward, you're pacing forward other people's journey in trying to build their successful business. And one of the things that I mentioned in the introduction is that you also mentor early stage startups. And you mentioned a little bit about like guidance and helping founders. So my question to you is how do you help founders build strong, scalable ventures? And how has your mentorship impacted their lives?
Hmm. Okay, that's a loaded question. Think for a bit. Yeah, so for me, I um mentor most of the early stages. So what I usually see with early stage startups is they have really big vision and then they want to get there tomorrow. So it's always about like telling them to, okay, the vision is great, but you need to slow down, start from one component of it and then build up to it. Uh, I don't want to demotivate them, but it's always like, okay, we don't have that much resources to be doing all of that, you know? So yeah, aspirations are good, but also being practical. So just connecting them back to the reality, that was the key thing I had to do with a lot of my mentorship. Yeah.
I think that's a great way to end the interview. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode. Thank you, Stacie, so much for your time and valuable insight.
Yes, thank you for inviting again. It was really nice having to think about these, what I usually don't think about.
I hope you enjoyed. I hope it was fun.
Yeah, definitely.
So, once again, thank you, everyone. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. And I'll see you all for the next episode. Goodbye.